In this demo, we're going to install the GroupWise Ascot Windows client to a Windows 7 workstation using a Samba share to our Linux server. During the installation on our backend processes, in the software distribution directory, the entire Windows client was copied to the software distribution directory. So setting up a Samba share on that Linux box will allow users to connect to it and to be able to run the install. So I'm going to show you how to install and create that Samba share. So I'm on our Linux server. I'm going to go to our YAST component. So computer and select YAST. We'll log in. The Samba service is already up and running on this server, so I really just need to connect and create a share. So I'm going to click my network services, select Samba server, and once it gives us the interface, we'll be able to create a new share. So here with some existing shares, I'm going to add a new share. I'm going to call this GW client, and it's GW client share from Linux. It's a directory that we want to share, so we're going to browse to that path in our software distribution directory, which was installed to mail software client Windows. Win32 holds the setup.exe file, so we'll select that one. We're going to make it a read-only share so that nobody can make any modifications to those files in that directory. We'll select OK and select Finished, and that share will actually now be available. Now I'm going to do is close YAST, open up a terminal. What we're going to do is we need to assign a Samba password to a user so they'll be able to connect to the Samba service. So I'm going to open terminal and switch user and become the root user. And what I'm going to do here is I've already have a client that I've created specifically for doing the installs on our Linux box, and I actually called it GW client. So in order to assign a Samba password, you type SMBPASSWD-A for adding him, and then the client name. So GW client, I'm going to select enter, and it now asks for that password. So I'm going to use our super funky Novell password, asks us to confirm it, and now we have that ready. I'm going to switch over to our Windows 7 box, and I'm going to go in here and open up my computer. I'll bring up our menu system, and I'm going to go to Tools, Map and Network Drive, and I'm going to give it a drive letter of G for GroupWise. And then here, I'm going to browse to our server's DA-ZCM, and the share I created was called GW client. I'm also going to want to connect using a different user credentials, but I don't really want this to reconnect at login. So I'll select Finish. It'll then ask me for the credentials. And my credentials that I have is GW client, the user I created, and again our super funky password. And then I'm presented with the share. So we see that on DAZCM. So now all I really need to do is just like running any other install. I'll simply find my in setup.exe file, launch the setup.exe. It does want to run as administrator. That's part of the UAC for Windows. So I'm going to again log in locally and run that as the administrator account, and wait for the installation to commence. Enter my client credentials again. And there we go. So now I've got the language for the installation. I click OK. The installer will run, load. We have our new branding for the Novell client. So we've got the nice new icon, the envelope in that teal green circle, and some gray shading. Select Next to start it. We've got a choice of doing a typical or a custom install. Typical install will create icons on a desktop. It will create a program folder for GroupWise client, and it will add an icon to the desktop as well. So select Next on typical, select Install, and allow the installation to run. It will install the MAPI client, the Windows messaging system, XML core services for Microsoft, as whatever it's needed to make that client run. So this will take a minute or two. Again, publisher can't be verified here because this is part of the Windows messaging services. I think this is all part of the UAC for Windows 7. And we'll run those. Again, depending on how you configure Windows 7, you can have some of that notification turned off. As with all GroupWise client installs, it does require administrator rights to the workstation. There are registry entries that are modified and added. So, we're almost done with the file copying. And just be a moment before it finishes. And now that it's done, we can either launch the program or select finished. I'm going to select finished. I'm going to close our drive mapped, close my computer. We now notice the GroupWise icon, nice new icon on the desktop. I'm going to go to the properties of that icon just to add the switch that asks to show the dialog box for login every time. So slash, sorry, I need to be outside that. Slash at u dash question mark. Select OK. And yes, permission rights. Again, all part of the UAC. I am not logged in as administrator locally, I was logged in as a regular user. So now I will launch the client. I'll get the prompt for the dialog box for logging in, so I'll enter credentials. And the IP address 172.17.6.23, and I'll select OK. And it launches the client. On first view, it looks similar to the previous versions. If I go to Help, About GroupWise, we'll see the new branding. We'll see our new program release and our new build numbers. So we see that it is running Ascot. I'll select OK, and we'll just send a new mail. We'll access the address book, and we'll see all of our users that we have. We'll just select all of the users, and we'll just deselect that particular user because that's who's logged in. We'll select 2, and we'll send a welcome message. Welcome to GroupWise. And if I take a look at sent items, we'll see that the items have been sent, 18 recipients. I'll close the client down. This concludes the installation of the GroupWise Windows client through a Samba share to a Linux server.